Happy Mardi Gras! And welcome to another episode of Tales from the Parade Route. Tonight we have very special guests here. We have two of the leaders of the Krewe of Apollo, New Orleans. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
So I know that the Krewe, y'all are a ball-only crew.
Right.
Correct.
And this is actually, I guess, like a second rendition of the Krewe. You know, that the first Krewe started in like the mid-'60s or early '60s?
Late 60s. Actually, they started in 1969 and ran through their ball in 1986. And then it went dormant for 30-something years. And in, the 2018, Apollo member from Lafayette that had been transferred down here for work or had moved down here to work started kind of getting the ball rolling, and we heard about it, and we had been involved in Apollo in Baton Rouge, so it seemed like a good project to get involved with and trying to bring back Apollo New Orleans for its 50th anniversary year. That was basically what we were trying to look at, was having a ball in 2020, which would be the 50th anniversary of their first one.
So. Wow. Well, something else that's really interesting with y'all's crew is that, y'all are one of the only crews I can think of where there's essentially chapters of it, to where, like you said, there's a Lafayette, chapter per se, Birmingham, Baton Rouge.
Right. And a new chapter.
Boston, there's a new chapter forming guys working on forming in Alexandria. So Roland Dobson, who founded the Krewe of Apollo here, was one of the first people that we know of, and particularly in the LGBTQ and allied crews, that he literally decided he wanted to franchise it out. He had friends in other places, so he worked with a group in Birmingham and a group in Lafayette, and formed both of those at the same time, and served as their captain and taught people how to produce a ball a few years after they had formed the Apollo Krewe here. And then I think it was the year that this Apollo Krewe went dormant, those two actually worked with a group in Baton Rouge who formed that one. And so through the years, there have been Apollo Krews like in Memphis and Shreveport and Dallas
Mobile.
And some other places, and Mobile. And then they have, but they'll come and go and whatnot. But the Lafayette and Birmingham and Baton Rouge chapters have remained active all of these years since they were formed.
Yeah, and just before the show, we were talking about how a dear friend of mine from back in the day actually was king recently in the Lafayette crew.
Yeah.
How much interaction do the crews have with each other?
The crews the crews do have some interaction. Before COVID, we had started trying to really make that a bigger part of what we were doing, or at least bring the spirit of that up. We were doing a gathering for when New Orleans Pride occurred, where members of the various crews would come down, and we'd have a contingent that we were actually doing a little food on our patio, and one of the guys from Lafayette had a house down here. He was doing his, and we'd all kind of go back and forth in the parties, and then we'd run around that afternoon and do the parades and those kind of things. But that hasn't really made a comeback yet since COVID. That kind of messed up a lot of things that we're getting rolling.
Timing too. You're all celebrating at the same time.
Right. We try to coordinate. We try to coordinate ball dates.
Yeah, I'm this year's captain, and trying to find between the various chapters of Apollo, and then trying to not step on any toes in the other LGBTQ plus crews here. Trying to find a date is nearly impossible.
Oh yeah.
And in short seasons, it is like impossible. Oh, yeah.
Well, and when you're sharing venues and you have all those other things going on, but we try to support each other. Like royalty from the various crews go to the other crews' balls, and Apollo in particular, and so we do those sorts of things. And actually, we have an event coming up, our
Saturday.
local event on Saturday, where we will pick our Mr. and Miss Apollo, which is basically geared toward younger performers that are vying for either title. But then the existing crews all go together and we rotate hosting Mr. and Miss National Apollo. So we pick somebody out of those representatives that gets the Mr. and Miss National Apollo title, and then they go to the various balls and work with the crews through the year and that kind of stuff.
So you said you're the captain this year. Is that a new role for you?
I've never been captain before until this year. I've been a king in 2 of the chapters.
Okay.
And that part's easy compared to like
I bet.
trying to wrangle cats, kind of like. Luckily, I have 2 really good co-captains this year, Laura Lawton and Gia Giovanni, who is well known in the community, and the first lieutenant, who actually is my sister, Barbara Carson. Yeah. So we're making it there. We're going along. We have our royalty elect all set, and we have our theme, which is Tony, 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 Apollo Goes to Broadway. So it will be Broadway themed costumes with at least a snippet of a signature piece of music from each of those performances. So
And the twisted part is, though, it's not going to be. It may not be that the overall show won a Tony. It may be that this piece of music won a Tony,
or that costume,
this
or
costume won a
something
Tony.
on it got a Tony.
Yeah.
So.
We tend to do balls that have a little bit of a twisted theme. Like last year, it was the Apollo A Night of Magic, but it was everything from magic mushrooms to magic markers and
Magic erasers.
and magic eraser. Yeah, Mr. Clean and the magic eraser. So the captain actually did come out looking like a magician, but then the costumes were a little more twisted in the theme.
Okay, that's I love when it's a play on words.
Right.
Right.
Like one of my favorite parades to watch is Pontchartrain, because it almost is like a Wheel of Fortune puzzle,
Right.
to where they've always got blank blank. Like I remember the year after Katrina, it was something blue or something like that,
Right.
and it would be blank blank blue, or blue blank fill on. It would be like y'all are saying, blue tarp, blue suede shoes, blue crab,
Right.
so on and so forth. So I love when it's a play on words like that.
What was it? The ball before last year, we actually took our captain then decided he was going to take on the game of Clue. So it was Apollo gets a clue, and literally used people and locations throughout the city instead of Colonel Mustard.
Yeah. Thus the Superdome costume we were talking about and things like that. And they hid various things throughout the room that, do they get beaten to death with the candlestick, or, some things we won't mention on a family-friendly podcast, but, some of the things that they had for murder weapons. But so it went everything from Armstrong Park. Did the murder occur in Armstrong Park, to, as we were talking about, the Superdome costume that came in.
So let me ask this. Like when I was looking at pictures from y'all's past balls, from my knowledge of Apollo Lafayette, and a couple of the other gay crews that are out there, that we were talking about before the show, where literally in Apollo, Lafayette, it's 20 foot. It's not a regular to see a 20-foot tall costume. With a lot of the pictures that I saw with y'all, it seemed like it was a lot more modest, shall we say? I mean, they were still beautiful. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
We had and that part of that is was dictated by, as we were talking about the venue. because since it was the 50th anniversary and Apollo had been the first crew to go into a 5-star hotel, so they held their ball out in the broad daylight, for lack of a better way to put it, of the Monteleon, so that but going back to the Monteleon, it didn't really have tall ceilings, so we had to kind of deal with that. And the same thing then in 2022 when we went back there again for the second time. The back pieces are growing now. I have to say that. I was having a conversation with one of the co-captains today about the whole thing of how tall can it be and how are we going to enter and can I do this, because last year we had costumes that really couldn't go, or the back piece couldn't have gone up on the stage the way we were entering the stage because of its height. So they're trying to do that. So they won't be quite as modest this year, though they won't be as over the top probably as a 20 or 30 foot piece of feather work or any of that kind of stuff.
Well, I said, don't get me wrong. All the pictures that I saw, the artwork of the costumes is extremely beautiful.
Right.
It's just that it wasn't that 20-foot tall. The
other thing is being relatively new in the sense that we were old, but a lot of our members are brand new to this. They haven't ever made large costumes. I mean, Lafayette, Baton Rouge, they've been 30 plus years of knowledge base and technical skill and stuff, and we're working on it.
Yeah, so. Our people are learning. Well, we don't have the what they refer to as the feather bank and other things like that too, where people have bought ostrich feathers through the years and saved them and taken great care of them, and then either given them to the crew when they decided they weren't doing costumes anymore or that sort of thing. That's something we've still got to build up, because with some of the places that are doing the really big costumes, the way they can get away with it is that a large chunk of that height is ostrich feathers. That way you can carry it.
Right. So, I know that a big part of the costuming world is kind of like that. The old adage of, a bride must have something old, something new, something whatever, something blue.
Yeah.
Right.
To where, like you're saying, the ostrich feathers may get used, 7, 8, 9, a dozen times.
Oh yeah.
Through its lifetime per se.
Well, they're not inexpensive. Plus, you have to gather them. There's a limited supply.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we have some friends from Apollo Baton Rouge that actually literally they live in Beaumont, but they've been members in Baton Rouge longer than we have been, so more than 30 years in there, and so they've gathered up ostrich feathers and all this, and their house flooded several years ago in the big flood over there. But that was the biggest thing they were worried about was what was going to happen to all the feathers. But the funny part was they had stored them all in like Rubbermaid or plastic tubs, sterilite tubs. All the tubs floated. And no water got inside, so they floated around the house. But as the water receded, then they just set themselves back down the floor, and they didn't lose it because they were talking about the thousands and thousands of dollars that would be of lost stuff.
So each member builds their own costume?
Each member here builds their own costume. Some crews do it differently, but with us, they build their own. They come up with their own stuff. Captains will go back and say, I want to see this or I want to see that. But in general, everybody puts it all together, and everybody has their own style. Some people are like me, and I have to start it like by October, and know it's going to all fit together and be fine, and then I can put it aside. Other people will start on Monday before a ball on Saturday and have a costume that still looks as good or better than one that people build ahead of time. It just depends on your talent level.
So y'all, how do y'all pick who gets to be, maids, dukes,
the royalty?
Well,
when we first started back, every one of the original charter members had the same amount of time, and they'd all put in the same amount of work and everything. So we decided that year that it was going to be a drawing.
Okay.
Name in a hat.
Yeah.
First person pulled king. Second name pulled queen. Well, so happened that John Bertrand, who was the person from Lafayette who started all this back with us, pulled first.
But he wanted to be the queen.
But he wanted to be the queen. So the next name got pulled. It was me, who didn't want to be the queen.
Right.
I looked at him and said, "Switch."
Right.
And he was like,
yeah.
"Yes."
So for the first few years, we've made that our rule was that, because even though technically it says that our captain decides the method, so they can have them elected by the membership, they can nominate them themselves, or they can do the drawing. Our next two captains were like that too. They were like, "Oh no, I don't want to get in trouble by picking so and so over so and so."
Yeah, you don't want to have that favoritism of you picked Fred instead of Bob.
Right.
Right.
So
I mean,
we
that's
did.
the traditional way. That's the king cake method, really.
Yeah,
Right. Oh yeah.
It is.
And now this year he actually picked his own royalty because he knew who he wanted, and they were the last of the original group that had not been royalty.
So I was like, and we do have some rules on how long a duration you have to have been in the crew to be eligible and stuff. And so it came down to, there was
probably half a dozen. Yeah,
4 or 5 people. And luckily, all of them said, no way, except for these two.
Yeah, they were
who
the ones
said,
who wanted.
I'm good with it. Well, one of them said, I'm good with it, and one of them said, I guess I can be convinced.
Because it's a lot of work on that too, and a lot, because if you're royalty, you certainly want to look better than everybody else and all that. But that just you generally better than everybody else means you're going to spend more money and you've got more traveling to do, because they are going to go visit all the other Apollo balls they can and all the local balls they can and all that. So you spend.
And generally, you have to have a second tux.
Yeah,
because you can't manage with just one tux to do all that.
Right, yeah, because one you may have enough cards on your or enough dances on your dance card to where Friday you need the tux for ball A.
You got
Saturday
it.
you need it for ball B, and potentially you need A again for Sunday.
There is a weekend right before Mardi Gras, before Fat Tuesday, that is it. You have something Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night.
At least, and we learned well. And the odd part is, he got pulled as king for the ball that we did in 2020, the Resurrection Ball. Then when we came back in 2022, it so happened that I got pulled as king, so we laughed and said we spent 2 cycles of visiting other people's balls and all that. So we learned it took 2 tuxes and 4 shirts just in case one shirt failed somewhere along the way.
I had that experience last year. I went to the Excalibur Ball, the Phoenix Ball, the Tux Ball, and then I was going to the Bacchus after party. And on the way there, walking in my tux, somebody bumped my nose and I right on my shirt. But luckily I had like a doubloon on.
Yes.
So I tied a knot in it and raised it up right on there. Then we were.
Nobody would knew.
Went and found the bartender, a little soda water.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 would have done me better.
We now own 4. I think 4 apiece, and it's like some people look at us, or the dry cleaner looks at us like, "What are you doing?"
So how do y'all go about picking your themes? This is
The captain. Yep. The first year, Resurrection made complete sense.
Right. Yeah.
We really
absolutely.
were coming from the ashes, and so that one, the captain each subsequent year is basically picked in collaboration or consultation with other people in the crew who might have an idea. This year, I didn't collaborate or consult or anything because I knew going into it what I wanted it to be, and so it was kind of like, oh, by the way, this is the theme, people.
Does each
get on board.
chapter do their own theme and everything?
Yes.
So it's completely independent.
Completely independent.
Except for, partying together.
Yeah, our rules say the captain decides on the royalty and they decide on the theme. But of course, you have to have, while he says he didn't really collaborate, you have to get people on board with it, or otherwise you have no costumes, because you can't make anybody build a costume or do anything. They all have to like the theme. And I mean, I think that's one of the points of our growth is we've gone from probably 10 costumes, a couple of years ago to last year, I think it was like 12 or something like that. And this year we have like 18 different individuals or groups signed up for costumes, from everything from hair to White Christmas to, those sorts of things that we've got going on. So some of them are going to be, again, the things that you don't really think of as the major Broadway play, or that this won an award, but we're going to present it that way.
Yeah.
How many members are in the local chapter?
39.
39.
As of Sunday, we actually did that count, because we're approaching the season where it's kind of everybody has to have made their commitments for the year and done all that. So as of then, we had 39 members. So we've gone from about 6 to 8 people who really stayed through most of the early formation process in the 2018 to 2020 period, that are still with us. We have, from the core group, we've only lost, I think, maybe 1 or 2 of those that started off. But, again, it's kind of like it grew a little, and then it grew a little, and then this past year it's really grown a lot. We
have members now who span from Florida to Texas.
Wow.
Really?
We used to be able to say, though, we had them from coast to coast, because our captain from last year actually lived in California at the point in time that he joined. So and then we have his sister and them in Florida, who decided this was the closest they were going to ever be able to join a Mardi Gras crew and be able to do the kind of things they like to do too. So at that point in time, we had Jake on the West Coast and them in Central Florida. So we really pretty much had it covered.
From coast to coast, right?
We keep laughing now and saying we know a couple of people out there that we have to convince one of them that they have to join so we can go back to our coast to coast designation. Yeah. But most of our members are from here. Are the Southeast Louisiana anyway. Yeah. That's where most people are coming from. So.
Let's see. So I know that y'all do a lot of stuff with the community as well.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about some of that community activity.
And admittedly, we're still trying to grow that part of it, but that was one of the major thrusts of when we reformed the crew. There, as the logo has on it, service, duty, and honor. But I mean, a lot of things they wanted to do was try to get into community service. So we worked on getting recognized as a public charity, so people could make donations and all that. And we mentioned, I think we were talking earlier about the Mystery Miss Apollo contests that we do. But again, a lot of that is about recognizing young artists and helping them along the way toward whatever they want to do with those sorts of things. We've also done a lot of things with the State Museum, because there were a few older artifacts around, and then some of us had collections of our own that belonged to one Apollo or another, and they were doing an exhibition on Gay Mardi Gras that ran a couple of years ago. And so, we helped do a lot of those things and gather up some of that history and all of that. Down to we do, community activities, literally about safer sex practices and that kind of stuff over Labor Day. So, which amounts to literally we're throwing things off a balcony at the Bourbon Orleans to the crowd below. But nevertheless, it's like we try to get involved with other organizations that are doing things like that rather than reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
So, also, as part of our bylaws, our royalty are required to do 2 fundraisers a year, and it helps fund our philanthropic fund. So
okay,
so we have the mechanism in place to help individuals in need if it's somebody that has that. We haven't really restricted ourselves to those sorts of things. And one of the qualifications of membership is also you have to get involved in community service some way. So it doesn't, like for instance, the woman who was my queen is going back on the New Orleans Pride Board, even though she's married to a man and a cis woman, which incidentally that happened to be that, as far as we know, again, one of the first for our crew was that it was the first of the New Orleans crews, at least, to name a, quote, for lack of a better way to put it, real woman as the queen, of a crew. Now, since then, a couple of the others jumped on board and did it in the past year or so, but we had actually kind of beaten them to the punch.
The fun part will be the year that we get a woman who wants to be king. Oh, I'm waiting for that one.
That's coming.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I can imagine what that one will be like.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned first. I mean, there's several things that y'all are first with. You kind of mentioned, it almost feels like we glanced over the fact that y'all were the first crew that was able to hold a ball in, a major
Venue.
hotel, a
Right.
major venue.
Well,
And then you'd also mentioned y'all were then the first in the municipal auditorium.
right. Yeah, it's and I think that's part of what has led us to the thrust now of being really, really inclusive in what we do. When we reformed the crew, we wanted to not just because New Orleans has a human rights ordinance and kind of but more that it was the right thing to do. We wanted to have men, women, members of the LGBTQ community, but also allies that wanted to join with us, just people that wanted to have fun. That was one of the reasons I think we did that, because that was also kind of a part of the original crew wanted to be different from the others as well. They really wanted to recruit people that were in business or other things like that, but that felt comfortable enough that they, you laughed a while ago about the police raid, what seemed to be a scripted part of almost every gay ball of that time. But they wanted to form a crew that actually had the wherewithal to stand up to that sort of a thing, that they weren't going to let it bother them, and so thus they wound up going to the Monte Leon and then being the first to go to the municipal auditorium and have a ball and not be invisible, but really choose to be visible in the community and do all those things. And so, I mean, I think that is a big part of what was the first and the thrust in this particular crew, was that they wanted to be out there, and they didn't, they wanted to say that we've had enough and we're not going to take it anymore, for lack of a better way to put it. Now, that doesn't mean that everything always went smoothly. We were talking about the first of being one of the only crews here in the area that we know of that ever got on national television, live at least, on doing the Saturday Night Live thing.
Right.
But we also look at some of our history in that, and there apparently were some of the members of the crew that had some trepidation about there's going to be a camera in the balcony, looking out across the room, and what if somebody sees me here? Or, whether it was, I guess I should say members of the audience, because it might not have been members of the crew. But so that became a big discussion even then, even though they were trying to be out there, and they were in a big ballroom at the Hyatt, so they weren't hiding anywhere, out in the parish or somewhere.
Right.
But yeah, there have been a lot of firsts in this crew, and a lot of firsts in the other Apollo crews that then came into existence as a result of this one. So, I mean, the crew in Shreveport, when it existed, they managed to make a large profit on their ball every year. So they during their ball, one of the big things became for them presenting a check to the community center up there. And so they made the front page of the Shreveport Times every year, presenting a check for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to the community center there.
Right.
So they've done those sorts of things. Lafayette is probably the biggest ball of all of us, because they literally cram so many people into their space that the fire marshal has to let him do some form of a count by making everyone sit in a chair. And if there's not a chair for everybody, that means you have one person too many in the room or whatever, because they literally do that. And so there have been a lot of things like that. And, the Baton Rouge crew as well has had its own first, and been involved a lot in community service. I guess that's how we learned some of our parts of community service. They ran a benevolence fund up there for years, and being officers in that crew, occasionally we would have to be the chair of the benevolence fund to do those sorts of things. So.
Yeah. Each of the different chapters is unique in our overall commonality of being Apollo. So no matter which one you go to, there'll be some common elements, but there's something just a little different about each chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've learned their own, their costume style is different. The style of the balls is different. Really, the overall just feel and tone of the balls is different. Probably the closest to the venue that we use, though theirs is much larger, but the Birmingham crew is in an older auditorium, so it kind of has the same feel as us now being in the Carver theater and that auditorium, it has the same sort of an overall feel. But then Baton Rouge and Lafayette are in the city's convention center, for lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah.
So so they have a completely different feel in that, and they have to build their own stages and runways and all that kind of stuff. So
What's the date of your ball this year?
January 13th. We are like the week after Rue Revelers starts off the season. We're like the next weekend.
Well, that actually gives me an opportunity to go because there's a lot of us that jams
Oh yeah.
right at the end. That, like I'm into parades, I can't go to some
Right.
of the balls.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like we basically again talking about you don't want to tread on anybody else's date.
Yeah.
It's kind of like finding it, and that was the date that we could find.
that we're still kind of in competition with some of the ones in the community here, but somehow the Apollo cruise wound up this year in that Lafayette and Baton Rouge have balls on the same nights. Or the same night. It also happens to be the night that we had kind of picked as our original date, and we're like, no, we're not doing a three.
We're not doing
a three-way
yeah.
Louisiana
Right,
tie.
right.
We can't do that. So then we had to start juggling and going, okay, among the crews in the New Orleans area and those, where can we find a date? And we had a couple of possibilities, but this one turned out to be the best we could really do of it, and it's like it's kind of early. We're a little worried that
Oh, yeah.
We're short carnival.
Consequently, I've been like cracking the whip with people going, you realize you don't want to be working on this over the Christmas holidays and stuff, so get it done now.
Yeah, where's your music?
Where's your
You know,
music?
that's the drum they've been beating lately. Is they want us to hear the music mix by about the 1st of October. So a few people still hadn't quite gotten there, but they're doing it. And some people are literally already working on costumes and doing things like that. So.
I'm already glittering stuff. I mean, that's how it is. And I was just,
Oh, yeah.
It starts kind of early. Once I start getting my supplies together, like I might as well glue that on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We were discussing that the other day in that we have a back piece frame for somebody in our storage room, and so at the meeting Sunday it's like, okay, we'll bring you out there and give it to you this week. But I was like, at the same time I need to get mine out and start working on this and this and this. And we said, we have them early. We're going to do all this, really, really early, but now it's not so early anymore.
The one thing that makes it a little more difficult is we don't have a dedicated den.
Yeah.
So, some of the bigger crews have a den where you can go work. For us, it's kind of like, ooh, well, that fit. If I build it in here, can I get it out the door?
Get it out the front door. We did costumes for Baton Rouge Apollo a number of years ago that when the guy did all the framework for it, and we went and picked them up, and we hadn't really thought about it, and they were a little bigger than what we had envisioned. We were the gay bear babies, and was the whole thing, and Forever Young. But he had a baby food jar, and mine was like a baby bottle that were supposed to be the back pieces. But the baby bottle was something like 8 feet long, and bigger around than that. And which mine was the simpler than his. The baby food jar was 4 feet across and 8 feet tall, just the jar, not including the framework to go in the back piece.
Right.
All that. We hadn't thought about the fact that neither one of those would go in or out the front door of our house, and and it's like, and we got to cover them in fabric and stone and mirrors and all this kind of stuff. And so we still thought, it'll be fine. We'll just do them on the carport. They'll come with the truck. We'll load them on, pick them up and go. Except that it was some of the worst freezing weather Baton Rouge had in years and years and years. So we were on our back porch with a tarp wall built and working on those costumes. And so we'd
with
have
a heater.
Yeah, with electric heaters.
We had a couple of those weekends here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
His back porch on painting some shields we had made for Excalibur. Ooh, that was a couple of cold days.
Oh yeah.
And we had to heat, and one of them had I guess both of them actually had a plasticor frame to give them a little body on top of the metal work. So yeah, we were having to like spray glue things to that. So we'd have to heat up the thing enough that the plastic was warm enough the glue would adhere, but then turn off the electric heaters before you spray the glue, so the glue didn't catch on fire.
Yeah.
Flash over and all that. And then the minute you finish finished glue, then you had to pull the corners of the tarp up to let it air out so that you didn't all
so you
pass
can
out from
get
the glue high.
Right.
Yeah. Which goes back to a lot of people who have never made back pieces before, so it's a slow process, and going from the cute to the impressive.
Right.
So
outside of those, that costume, what is your ball? Is it formal otherwise?
it's formal.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, that's
Some of our members are even more stringent about it being formal than
others.
than I am. Some of them are like, that is a
It's a rental.
oh that can be that part's fine, but some of them are like, you have a regular tie and it's supposed to be here.
Yeah.
We have backup bow
Right,
tie.
yeah.
Please take that off and put this on.
Yeah, but-
I have a bow tie and it has purple, green, and gold ostrich feathers. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Right.
But you understand, some of them.
Oh
are
yeah,
like,
we have all kinds of them, but we have to be careful and watch people's ball invitations and what they say their dress code is, because there's some crews that are really serious about the black tie. That's it. We have vests and things that are Mardi Gras themes and all that. And,
although I mean, for the past several years, as you can tell from the logo, we've been using our Apollo red
Yeah.
bow tie and vest and stuff, because then everybody where we go, they're like, "Oh, you're Apollo New Orleans. Those are your colors."
yeah, they're finally starting to recognize it.
So
Yeah, I know that there's a couple of people that I have mutual friends and whatnot with that they go to y'all's ball and they're in formal wear per se, but it's like almost costume formal.
Right.
One of the guys, he almost looks like a ringleader in the way
Oh,
he,
yeah.
he dresses.
Oh yeah, we have people that they like their sequin tuxedos instead of just a regular tux. So
Right.
I mean, we're not really stringent about the dress code as far as that. I mean, it's supposed to. We
supposed to
do
be
say
fun.
it's formal,
Yeah.
but we're taking whose idea of formal, and I think some of our younger members have taught some of the older people like us a lesson too, in that what means formal to us doesn't necessarily mean formal to that generation, but because we want the crew to have a life that goes on beyond our age group, then we have to kind of tailor things to say, okay, that's how they want to come as formals, and we have to remember that's good too.
So, to kind of bounce back on another topic, y'all mentioned the Mr. and Mrs. Apollo competition this weekend.
this Saturday,
Where is it? And let's say I wanted to get tickets. Where could I get tickets?
You don't even have to get tickets. You can actually come at the door. It's going to be at Oz on Bourbon Street, so the corner of Bourbon and St. Anne. Quote, doors open at 5. That's when they'll start charging a $5 cover charge, and then the competition starts at 6. So there'll be the people vying for the titles, as well as a whole lot of other entertainers and whatnot. And as he mentioned, his co-captain Gia Giovanni will be the MC for it. So she'll do her best to keep us all in stitches between costumes and jokes and all of that in between. So that'll go on from 6 to about 9, depending on how quickly the judges go. That's
Right.
Some of it is all that, but 6 to 9 at Oz this Saturday night.
Okay. Where can people follow the crew and get more information about the crew?
Our Facebook page is the Mystic Crew of Apollo Day New Orleans, so you can go to that. I think it's, if you just do the Facebook and the slash, I think it's Apollo NOLA is the shortcut to that,
Yeah.
but certainly you can search for us on there. And then our websites are both mkanola.org and mkanola.com. So we own both those domains. They all direct to the same website. So they can follow us there and find out more about our history and see, as you were saying, the pictures from balls and things like that can all be found on the website. And even people can, if they think they may be interested in joining, we have an online membership application up there. And, so people can fill that out and tell us why they want to join and become a member if that's what they'd like
and
to
the
do.
next couple weeks, they'll be able to go to that to find out where they can get tickets for the ball coming up
Right.
Okay.
January 13th.
And the ball's going to be at the Monteleone
No,
again?
it'll be at the Carver Theater.
Yeah, at the Carver Theater on Orleans Avenue.
Yeah.
Orleans, yeah.
It's a great
Amazing
place.
venue.
Yeah.
And that it's well, in my opinion, underused. But they went in and completely redid it all with a really state of the art light and sound system several years ago now. And so, I mean, it's got great sound, great lighting,
Great ceiling height.
yeah, and a great ceiling height. Yeah, so we don't have to worry about ballroom ceilings
Right.
anymore and whether we rake down the chandelier. So yeah, it's a really neat place. And yeah, the tickets are on sale to members right now for I think 3 more weeks. They get to pick.
So if you know a
pick of it.
member,
So if you know a member,
Yeah.
you can
you
also
can go and say,
buy me
Hey,
tickets.
buddy.
"You buy me
Yeah.
tickets?"
I'm not a member today.
That's it. Yeah. You can tell us. Yeah.
Right.
We'll be happy to do that. And they'll stay on there, and then the public chart will go up on our website literally in about 3 weeks, so people can start buying their tickets and all of that.
Right.
Awesome.
And you want to make sure you keep thinking about getting those tickets because about a little under half the tables
Or
are already gone.
Right.
so-
I
Yeah.
can imagine.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we do a little differently too, with being at the Monteleone and all that, and just the history of the way this crew started, they literally did a ball with a sit-down dinner when they started as well, and so that was a part of it. With moving the Carver, we're not still doing like the 3-course served meal, but we do have food throughout the entire ball, so there'll be like
Which is
party
different than
food and
most
things, and
A
other-
lot of them are kind of going to that sort of snack
Yeah.
Right.
Well, this
buffet
is.
style,
Well, you're gonna. Let's see. Chicken fingers, a vegetarian
entree, sandwich trays, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a pretty
mac and cheese bites. I'm trying to think of because I told them I don't want the same as last year. Change it up a little
Yeah.
bit. So
Yeah, but it'll be party food that's catered and they supply. I mean, like the crew in Baton Rouge sometimes does. Each table host can bring in whatever they want to, but this will be like buffet tables that are out through the whole ball, and of course the usual cash bar and all those things that they can have. But
Yeah.
it should be a lot of fun because
Oh, yeah.
literally we're going to have about twice as many costumes this year as we had last year. We're adding a runway off the stage so people can get a little closer to the costumes and that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. And I mean, like you said, with the renovations that they did to the Carver, I know, I saw pictures of it when they, cut the ribbon or what have
Right.
you. It's a beautiful venue.
It is.
Oh yeah.
It's an amazing venue. So
Yeah, we'll actually have our what we call the captain's party the night before there upstairs as well because they turned the balcony into a nice party room and all that kind of stuff. So, and we've even got a couple of opportunities for people buying tickets, what we're calling the VIP balconies, because they built on the front side of the old balcony, they built couple of little boxes that have a wonderful view of the whole room, but you don't have to be down in the middle of the crowd.
For,
You know that.
for presenting sponsor, you get your own private box.
And somebody that will serve you chicken fingers and sandwiches all you want. We promise.
So, yeah, hopefully we'll see y'all there.
yeah,
I have to
Oh yeah,
check
we'd
the
love to have you.
schedule of my potential date and then see if
yeah. I mean, I'd love to come and see y'all.
Right.
she's a nurse, so her schedule is just all.
Oh yeah, yeah. We know that part of it.
Luckily, I'm basically retired now, so it's like,
Yeah, it's the only way you can manage to be a ball captain, or that's what friends were asking us. Okay, what do you do now that you're retired? How do you fill your time? It's like, there are people who find plenty of things to fill your time. Yeah, join a Mardi Gras crew. That'll be one way to do it. So.
Yeah, you think that a honey-do list is enough to keep someone's schedule busy?
Oh yeah.
Join a Mardi Gras crew and get super active with the crew on top of that.
Right, and then have your honeydew list on top of that.
Right,
It's like, yeah. Our honeydew list never seems to get much attention because it's always, well, after I glitter this, maybe I'll go do that.
Right. So, I really appreciate y'all coming on and
thank you for having us.
Giving us the story behind the crew.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
It's an honor to see, the work that, all of the gay crews put out that, You know, I mean, the artwork of the costumes, the pageantry, the whole 9 yards of it. It's really a spectacle to see, shall we say?
Right.
Yeah.
Those who know what it is, but I think it's kind of a forgotten part of Mardi Gras, unfortunately, and a lot of people should really go experience.
Oh yeah.
Because, especially, I mean, you're making it easy, and it's kind of an off weekend.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Oh, yeah,
go see that and have fun.
Yeah, we would love to have people come out and join us to have fun because that's exactly the point of it. Is we want them to get to enjoy the costumes and enjoy the music and all of that. And enjoy seeing the king and queen. We also are not, I guess I should have said that earlier, we're not as formal about our kings and queens as some crews are. We don't take quite as staid an attitude toward them. So, for instance, my queen and I did, because the ball was the murder mystery, but supposedly we were the ones murdered before the ball began. They didn't know we'd be the king and queen, but they knew we were the president and vice president at that time. So that was how the murder mystery of that ball started. But then we came back through the magic of voodoo. That was our, how we were presented. So we didn't take ourselves too seriously in that regard. And our current king and queen came out last year as Dr. Bombay and Endora, from Bewitched.
Right.
So that was their thing on the end of the twisted magic.
So I've been sitting there trying to figure out how I'm going to make Bombay and Endora into Broadway. I have been sitting there going, okay, I can do this, and I can do that. Okay, that'll work. How can I segue this all together? So.
Feels like everything's been done on Broadway at this point.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Shoehorn whatever into it.
Well, then we had we were lucky in that we had the whole, we could take, the voodoo and move it on into another ball, focus on magic, but we didn't realize that we were kind of like tying our hands. If you start segueing one ball to the next ball with the royalty, someday you're going to hit this where, how do you figure out that Dr. Bombay and Endora go to Broadway? We don't know.
Wait, y'all don't plan this years and years ahead of time?
No.
We haven't been back that many years to figure it out yet.
Yeah, we're still working on how to do that.
That's one of the things is our traditions are evolving. Yeah, we've stolen a little bit
I don't
from.
want to be stagnant. I mean,
No, but we've stolen some things from best things from Baton Rouge, some best practices from Lafayette, best practices from Birmingham, and consequently, why we have a captain's party. We have a royalty club of all current and former royalty, which includes a separate dinner that we hold before the season gets started, just so we all get together. And then we do a after the ball brunch at a local restaurant where we all get together. We name the king and queen, pick the best table decorated and the best costume, and give them an award and stuff. So it's best things from each of the different chapters.
Yeah.
And a few of our own.
Yeah. So, well, thank you all.
Yeah, so thank y'all again.
Thank you.
And thank y'all for watching. Signing out. We will see you on the route. Happy Mardi Gras.
Happy Mardi Gras.